In 1963, while attempting to communicate with aliens using a radio telescope in Puerto Rico, scientists picked up a strange signal from outer space. They called it long-delayed echoes, or LD for short. And they're still trying to figure out exactly what they were. Could it be an alien satellite orbiting our planet? What if there's been something watching us this whole time? Here are the scariest things about the Black Knight satellite and why scientists can't stop thinking about it. Welcome to our channel. First, we have to talk about the source of this mysterious object. It all started back in 1928 when Jørgen Hulse, a Danish radio engineer, picked up a strange radio signal that seemed to be coming from space. He described it as a continuous hissing noise. Although he couldn't identify the source, he did note the fact that the waves seemed to be returning back to him after a delay. This made no sense since nothing should be bouncing back from space so quickly. Could it be an alien transmission? That would have been pretty huge news. But at the time, scientists weren't willing to jump to any conclusions and instead focused on making sure the signal was coming from space and not some terrestrial interference. It would take several decades before they got to the bottom of it. And that brings us to our next point, which is that it took decades to figure out where the signals were actually coming from. All the way until 1963, scientists remained baffled by the source of the radio waves. Using a radio telescope in Puerto Rico, scientists successfully traced the signals to a point just above the horizon. But that didn't really narrow it down. After all, the horizon is a pretty big place. In 1970, they finally managed to pinpoint the source, a small constellation of stars near the Big Dipper. Since then, researchers have come to believe that these radio waves may have originated from a very special part of the galaxy. But what makes it so special? Well, this is where things get interesting. Brace yourself, because here's one of the craziest facts about the Black Knight. The signals seem to be originating from within their boots void. If you don't know what that is, don't worry, we don't blame you. It's basically a massive empty region of space located between the constellations of Bootes and Corona Borealis. The void stretches for over 250 million light-years and contains only around 60 galaxies. For comparison, that's about 100 times less dense than the area surrounding it. This is pretty significant because it is theorized that the universe had a much higher density of matter in its early years. So seeing such a large void so close to home is quite unusual. So could the lack of galaxies have something to do with the Black Knight? Scientists aren't really sure. One theory suggests that the Black Knight may actually be a Trojan satellite, meaning that it's following closely behind Earth but in a slightly different orbit. This would explain why it was able to communicate with Earth so easily, even though it was incredibly far away. But how could a satellite remain hidden for so long? Well, it turns out that the Black Knight isn't your average piece of space debris. It's much larger and heavier than most satellites. This makes it easier to spot against the backdrop of space, but also means that it would require much more fuel to put it into orbit in the first place. And that's where things get a little fishy. According to NASA, the Black Knight has been in orbit around Earth for the past 13,000 years. If that's true, it would mean that it would have required an incredible amount of energy to keep it there. Even today, launching a satellite into orbit requires a lot of power. So it's hard to imagine how they would have managed to do it all those years ago. The craziest part is that the satellite seems to be accelerating in orbit, suggesting that it may have an engine of some kind. But there's no evidence of any propulsion systems. And who put it there? Well, that's the million-dollar question, literally. And it's not the only thing that's made scientists scratch their heads. Another oddity of the Black Knight is its orbit itself. According to NASA, the satellite completes one orbit around Earth every 45 minutes. That's faster than most satellites, which typically take several hours. This suggests that the Black Knight is orbiting very close to Earth's surface. But if that's the case, why haven't we seen it? Well, it turns out that the satellite flies directly over the South Pacific Ocean during most of its orbit. Plus, it's black. So it doesn't exactly stand out against the darkness of space. But that's not the only reason why scientists have struggled to spot it. In fact, there have been many reported sightings of the Black Knight over the years. And that brings us to another fascinating aspect of this mysterious object. There have been thousands of alleged sightings of the Black Knight over the years. Many people claim to have seen it with their own eyes, describing it as a bright, fast-moving object streaking across the sky. Of course, it's impossible to verify these claims without concrete evidence. But that hasn't stopped scientists from investigating. In fact, one researcher even claims to have tracked down some of the witnesses and cross-referenced their stories with astronomical data. What he found was that many of the sightings could be linked to specific events in the sky, such as the appearance of comets or meteors. But some of them remained unexplained. Could these be real glimpses of the Black Knight? Maybe. Or perhaps they were simply misidentified planets or stars. One thing's for sure, though, the fact that so many people have seen this object over the years suggests that it is not just a figment of our imagination. So if it's not a satellite, what could it be? Well, some scientists believe that the Black Knight may be an extraterrestrial probe. That's right. We're talking about the possibility of aliens visiting our planet. And we know what you're thinking. That sounds like a stretch. But hear us out. If the Black Knight is an alien probe, it would explain some of the things that we've observed, such as its strange orbit and the fact that it seems to be accelerating in space. Not to mention, it would also explain the radio signals that have been detected coming from it. Of course, there's no direct evidence to support this theory. And it is important to remember that there are other possible explanations for what the Black Knight could be. But nonetheless, it's a fascinating idea that has captured the attention of scientists and alien enthusiasts alike. And speaking of radio signals, let's talk about one of the most compelling pieces of evidence in this case. Back in 1981, James A. McCullough, a scientist at the University of Illinois, detected an unusual radio signal coming from space. The signal was similar to the ones that had been detected in 1963, and he named it long-delayed echoes, or LD for short. What made this particular signal so strange was that it arrived in response to a specific message that humans had sent out into space. That's right. Before sending his message, McCullough had looked up the mathematical equivalent of "Are you out there?" in 17 different languages and then beamed it into space using a powerful radio telescope. What are the odds that a random signal would arrive in response to such a specific message? Some might say that it was just a coincidence. But others believe that it was a sign that someone or something was listening in on our communications. After analyzing the signal further, McCullough and his team discovered that it was coming from the same part of the sky as the original radio wave signals that had been detected in 1963. This led to speculation that both phenomena may be related, and that the Black Knight satellite may be communicating with us through these delayed echoes. But that's not the only strange thing about them. The LD signals have also been found to contain repeating patterns, leading some researchers to believe that they may be artificial in origin. While there's no consensus on what the signals mean, they continue to be a source of fascination and speculation among scientists and UFO enthusiasts alike. But ultimately, the truth may never be known. And that's one of the scariest parts of all. Despite all the evidence that has been gathered over the years, we still don't know what the Black Knight is. It could be a satellite, a probe, or something else entirely. And even if we do find out, we may never know why it's here or who sent it. Is it too late to cancel humanity's subscription to the universe? Comment below. What do you think is the most likely explanation for the Black Knight satellite? A top-secret military project, an alien probe, or something else entirely? Let us know and keep watching for more videos about space mysteries.